special thanks to Ina, our host. And I know some of you have come from far distance, Clearwater, Tampa, and St. Petersburg. So deepest gratitude to all of you for taking out your time. We are very, very glad and blessed today. We have His Holiness Bhakti Marg Swami Maharaj with us. And I'll give you a brief introduction about Maharaj. So Maharaj was born in 1952 and he met devotees first time in Toronto when he was in college, at college campus, and he studied the fine arts, and he invited them to his apartment for an overnight stay. And without delay, he gave up all the unwanted things in life and went to the temple and never left. He was initiated by Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in 1973. That's almost 53 years back. And Maharaj served ISKCON as a Bhakta leader, Sankirtan leader. He has directed wonderful devotional plays. And from 1985 to 95, he was a temple president in Toronto. And he took also the vows of sannyas, or the renounced order of life, as the saffron sannyasi. And he's also known as the walking monk. He has walked across Canada 4 times and across US as well. And it's detailed in a documentary called The Longest Road. So if you are more interested, you can watch that documentary as well. I mean, there's a lot more to say about Maharaj, his wonderful mood of sharing the bhakti yoga, the mantra, the kirtan. And we have some books also which Maharaj will introduce later. But let's together, with all our heart, with all the love and gratitude, welcome Maharaj. And the traditional way to welcome a great saint is 3 times chant Hari Bol from your heart. Let's do it together. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol!
Thank you so much, Śrīmad Prabhu. It is a pleasure to be here. I wasn't sure what kind of audience we would have today, but it looks like a nice wholesome group. And most of you speak Russian, I think. How many of you speak American?
I mean, everybody.
What I think we will do then is to speak a little bit about one thing that has occupied my services for the last little while. I just completed a walk across the Netherlands, Holland, in October. It took me 8 days. It's not a big country, and it's flat. So I like that. I have done a lot of walks, apart from what was mentioned. I also walked Ireland, where it's very wet. Israel, where it's very dry. Guyana, where it's very humid. Trinidad, Fiji Islands, and Mauritius. And we'll see what's in store for us in the future. Now, I'll just present to you this book. I don't have too many copies left. It's called The Saffron Path. And that's an account of the walks I did, the kind of people I met, the kind of challenges I went through. From being stalked by a grizzly bear to being mistaken for an escaped prison inmate because of the color. The walking monk braves the elements and adventure across the globe to bring you the tales only trails can tell. So this is an account. First of all, I'll offer my respects to my guru, because in the yoga tradition, you always, give thanks or express gratitude to your teacher, your guru. So I'll do that with a small poem here. And this is an address to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada for short. Leaving home behind, a new comfort to find. It was in 1965. The ocean you did survive, on ship with beads and books. There were stares and looks when you landed upon the shore and made that big score. In the city of fashion, New York, of darkness and passion, there was snow and cold, but you were so bold. There was noise and heat. You said no to defeat. From the above description, I learned great conviction in going step by step, a stride to be kept. For around every bend, there's definitely a friend, a touch of magic, making life less tragic. So I offered these walks to my teacher, my guru, who I'm grateful for. Just a little bit more about myself. So I was born in southwestern Ontario, and one day's walk from a famous place in the world. It's called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Has anybody ever heard of that? Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes.
And there was a minister, well, he was a Afro-American, who was born into slavery, and he made his way up to Canada. He's from Kentucky. Made his way up to Canada. Canada at that time, and we're talking about the 1800s, mid-1800s, Canada was not yet the nation as we know it. It was a British colony. And slaves from America, from the deep south, which this is part of it, they escaped north. They followed the North Star. They traveled in the night and followed the North Star. And they used to travel on what was major roads in those days. And in the night, let's say in the daytime, they had to hide in forests, thick forests, in case someone was going to squeal on them, tell on them. And many of them successfully made it to Uncle Tom's Cabin. He was a minister, kind of was self-taught. He didn't even know how to read in the beginning, but he was strongly into Jesus, right? So he gave refuge to those people, and for me, it's one of the most stimulating places in North America to go to, because for what it stood for is a place of freedom. So we got a lot of these former slaves, and he started a whole community. They developed the agriculture in the area. So anyways, I'm bringing this up because he's an inspiration for me. And then there's another hero in my life, and I write about it in here. That is, his name is Chief Tecumseh. And Chief Tecumseh was also from Kentucky, and he came up to Canada. He fought on behalf of the British against the Americans. The U.S. and Canada did have a war, and His Grace, Donald Trump, reminds us of that. I'm being a little sarcastic. And so he fought on behalf of his own people and the British, of course. But the war itself was pretty useless. Nobody really won on either side. It was just a waste of time, you know. Anyways, he died. He died, and we can say that he sacrificed his life for his people. Okay, so why I walked across Canada? Well, that's where I live, and I like my country, and I like my culture. I actually wanted to do what Swamis normally do, and that is to go and travel about, make friends, live simple, kind of live out of a tent, and just walk every step of the way. Get up close and see everything. You know, be humbled by what you see around you. So that's kind of like what's expected of a monk. People have some anticipation that that's your privilege. So I did that. I spent many years in the temple, as Srila Boss was saying. I was the temple president for a while for a big community and resident devotees. It's also a monastery that we led in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And came a time in the early 90s when I decided I had to make a little change. I was under the influence of dark planets, two dark, Rahu and Ketu. If you have roots from India, then you know what I'm talking about. And like everyone, most of us go through the dark influences, When there's a dark planet dominating your life, it means you have to maybe play low key. You might have to get more spiritual, go more inward. And so during this time that I was going through, I thought, maybe I'll go for a long walk. And it was going to be in 1996, that's when I started the walk, the anniversary for our Guru to be 100 years old. How do you live that long? So I thought, I'll do this for my Guru, I'll walk. And I'll also do it for myself, for my own inner development. Like people do a lot of sacrifices. People look after their kids, they look after their elderly mom or dad, or, they do a lot. People, and then there comes a time when you have to have a little downtime. Maybe I should do something for myself. So I decided to walk across Canada, and I started from the West Coast, went to the East Coast, to the end, close to where the Titanic sank. I was praying that I wouldn't sink, that I'd be able to keep my wits about me, and that I'd be able to just keep walking and keep meeting people. So, I started on the first day on Vancouver Island, and it was springtime. It was April the 12th, and I was looking at what happened on April the 12th. Oh, the Titanic did sink. I said, well, forget that. I'm going for a spiritual purpose, And I'm going to encourage people on the spiritual side of life. That's what I was hoping to do. Meet people and inspire them some little way to get more in touch with themselves. Because there's a lot of ego problems, and North America is a place for a lot of sense gratification. It's a place for a lot of, let's say, consumerism and capitalism. And despite all of that, it's probably one of the best places to be on the planet. So, anyways, I thought that if I walk and I'll have a companion with me to check on me once in a while to see if I'm still around, he would be in a vehicle. So, a fellow by the name of Dave Poirier, French-Canadian, part native. We use this '79 Dodge van as our backup. I keep my personal things there. We have a Coleman stove there. Everyone can understand it.
Yeah, it's just $79, man. I'm like, that's so cheap.
Yeah, it is. It was even then, but 96 is when I started. 79, it was cheap, yeah. But we beggars cannot be choosers. We just accepted what we had, right? And it looked pretty pathetic too. But it kept our books in there, our clothes, the Coleman stove, and some blankets, and that's how we started. We'd sleep in the van. Sometimes people would invite us to stay in their homes. And the regular format was I'd start walking early in the morning when it was dark. And that way I could just not worry about the heat of the day. I could just focus on my walking and my mantras, because I'd walk chanting my mantras. The reason why it's good to chant mantras with a little audibly. So it's for the animals, right? Also something's coming, Because the worst thing you do is if you go through the wilderness, in the mountains especially, if you're walking and you startle an animal, and especially if it's mama bear or a mountain, a mountain lion with their cubs or something. You don't want to start, so you let them know that I'm Here I'm coming and I'm walking through. And you go at a nice pace, not too fast, right? In terms of that, my pace was about 5 kilometers an hour. That's about 3 miles an hour, right? Do you understand kilometers? Okay. Yeah. In America, you're still a little bit behind. No offense. Okay, no offense.
It's a marathon. It's like 5K is like marathons people
Yeah,
run.
it is.
Like
It
races, not marathons, but
Yeah.
race.
Yeah. I can't keep that up right now, but anyways, at that time, 43 years old, I could do it. And so on average, I was walking, and for the first, on that first walk, I was chanting pretty much 8 hours a day and walking about 9 hours a day, covering a lot, so like 42 kilometers a day, which is like a marathon, according to the Olympics athletes, where it all started from. I only found that out later. I was averaging like that. So I'd be walking, and then if people didn't know what I was doing, they would, and they showed some interest. They'd see like a traffic cone in the distance, like this color. And then they said, it's moving, because they get closer, and then they like finally pull over, said, would you like a ride? And I said, well, I'm not taking any rides. I'm walking across the country. And their response would be something like, no way. I said, well, yes, I'm a monk, and this is the kind of thing monks do. By the way, they asked, why, So when I did America, and I did it in 2 strips, basically. 2015, I started, and then I finished a year and a half later. And if they asked, why are you walking across America? Journalists would do that, or just people randomly would stop and motorists and say, well, I'm walking across America to make America great again. How do you like that? Yeah. And, how's it going?
Right.
Guys, yeah. And when I was in Canada, like in 1995, Canada was thinking about splitting, like Quebec is thinking about separating from Canada. It was a very hot political issue. And unfortunately, most people voted for Quebec staying together. And one political leader said, it's because of the immigrants. If it wasn't for the immigrants, we would have been able to separate by now. The immigrants and the natives. So he got some flack for that. Anyways, that's why I was walking across Canada, to promote a spiritual good for the nation. Those were the words I was using. We needed to. We're troubled. Everyone's troubled. It's a materialistic world. We can get better. We're hurting. We can do better. And so I was trying to make a statement.
But when does it stop, the pain?
When did it start?
Yeah, the stop. The pain.
When will it stop?
Yeah.
Well, it's individual. The individual has to make the effort first to stop the pain. Right.
Okay.
So I would tell people that, and then there was incredible, let's say, attention through the media, newspapers, TV, radios. The internet wasn't big yet at that time, not like it's taken off now. But so the story was very positive, just like when I was in the Netherlands. Recently, I walked the country, and I told the media, and they were so interested in the story. It was very positive. It was a Canadian monk walks across the Netherlands to explore his roots, because my parents come from Holland, right? So now, and we ended up meeting all, like at least 30 plus cousins that I didn't even know I had, We had like a big family reunion at the end across the road, in a banquet hall across the road from the church that my dad used to go to. Yeah, it was really quite, let's say, emotional, to go through areas where where British troops landed, they got parachuted, and they were fighting to get the Nazis and all this kind of stuff. And there were a lot of actual Canadian plaques everywhere, because it was the Canadian soldiers that liberated Holland. I don't know if you know about that. But so they have this, they just were fascinated by the story. And so in Canada and the US, there was incredible feedback from the media. And just to give you a sample, I was, now I'm going to hop into America. I was in Nevada. You know where Nevada is? You know Las Vegas, where everyone does the whatever. You know, the gambling. I don't even know how they do it. I was such a bit
Black magic.
Yeah, that's what that's yeah. So I went to one particular town, and it was Janmashtami, it was Krishna's birthday. So first of all, myself and my support, I had two guys at the time helping me. We were in the bed, we were listening to the radio show. It opened up. And it said, well, welcome today to whatever the number is for the radio. And we're great to be, let's look at some birthdays. Who was famous that was born? And I can't even remember who they mentioned. But they did say that. That's how the show opened up. And 10 minutes later, I was to go in. And so I did. And when I walked in, they had music from Santana, Carlos Santana. And my God, it brought me back to when I was a hippie or a modest hippie. Yeah. So anyways, I got in there, and then I was introduced by the man and the woman. It's always a guy and a girl, and they're not married to each other. And they asked, they asked a few questions, introduced me as the walking monk, etc. And then I said, I just want to mention to you, today's a very special day. It's the birth of Krishna. Okay, so then the anchor guy, he says, Krishna, yes, Krishna, that yogi, he spoke Bhagavad Gita. He spoke to his warrior friend Arjuna how to get out of depression and so on like that. Like he knew the whole thing. So it was nice to meet those kind of people along the way. And I'll tell you another story. This was in Utah, that's my favorite state, I'll be honest with you. By the way, I didn't walk Florida.
Utah.
So, yeah, Utah.
Why is it famous?
Well, because, first of all, no mosquitoes, practically no mosquitoes. Incredible rock formations. There's a lot of Mormon people there,
Yeah.
and they're very accepting, and there are lesser people, less population, so it's going to be quiet and all that kind of stuff. So I went to one town where it was famous for finding a lot of fossils of dinosaurs and all that. I just can't remember the name of it. But we would contact the radio stations. So I was invited to one. And I got to know their like country western music. Personally, it's not my favorite, country western music. Sorry to say. I hope I'm not hurting anyone. And they asked, nice question. It was great, just to be on the air, because you reach out to thousands of people, about your mission. And of course, you mentioned about Krishna and about bhakti yoga and so on like that. And so then the next day, I was in another town where the same town, we went to another radio station. Is this a problem? It's okay. Okay. Radio station, and I said, what genre of music do you play here? And the anchor person was Jennifer. First of all, I handed a copy of the Bhagavad Gita to Jennifer because I told her this is the ultimate book on yoga. She said, I have that book. Somewhere or other I have that book. And I asked Jennifer, have you read it yet? No, but now that I've met you, I think I'm going to start reading it. Okay, good. So that was one thing. And so I asked Jennifer, what genre of music do you play here on this station? Because the other one is country western. She said, we play pop. I said, pop music. We were just ready to get on the air. We were having a little dialogue. pop music. Well, pop in the Sanskrit language means sin. Like bad karma. Pop. Pop means bad karma, sin. Okay? So she said, oh, that's very interesting. Oh, Swami. So we did, okay, so we have someone very interesting here, right at the studio, and his name is, let me see if I get it right, Bhakti Marga Swami, okay, in Sanskrit. And I said, Jennifer, that was perfect, you know. I said, now we just had a little discussion here about the kind of music we play on the air here. And I told him it's pop music, you know, I told the Swami. And the Swami said that in the Sanskrit language it means sin. And that's why we have the walking monk with us here today to deal with our sins. So she kind of flipped it around, turned it into something very positive. So those are some of the light-hearted things that you encounter, you know, as you're walking along the way and meeting people of the media. Well, it's in the books. I did meet some wildlife, bears on 2 occasions. Have you ever heard the mantra about the different kinds of bears and how you are to deal with them? Okay, here's the story. It's a mantra about bears. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. If it's white, good night. So in the southern part of Canada, or in, you know, we have grizzlies in America, I mean to say polar bears, but so you have to worry about them. But you know, you have to be kind of ready in case, you know. So one day, it was my 3rd walk across Canada, and I was thinking, I've not seen a live bear. And this is my 3rd walk. That's crazy. What's wrong? So I actually prayed to meet a bear, you know. And lo and behold, 30 minutes later, a bear shows up. And it's a big guy. And we were on what do they call the Red Coat Trail. And it was me and my support guys with me at that time. And the bear was on this 2-lane highway, very quiet in the morning, it was sunny day. And he didn't see us in the beginning, he smelled us. Because they have keen scent. Their nose is so keen when it comes to sniffing. When it comes to the eyes, it's very weak, right? So, in the middle of the road, a car came, motorist came, and tooted its horn, and he took off. Well, just a few minutes later, myself and my support guy, Garuda, we heard a snort behind us, like that. And we turned behind us, and there was the bear that had kind of got off the road and came and to follow us. Okay, now we were smart not to run. And by the way, where were we going to run to? We were in a national park. There's no buildings. I didn't see one building that day on the walk. No refuge whatsoever. Right? So we just kept walking, and you know, usually you try to look big. We go like this, and because the bears, if they see something a little bit tall, they might back off. A little hard to do for a grizzly, but we kept walking. We knew not to run. We started to chant some mantras for protection. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayane Hiranyakasa, and it goes on. And we started to talk to the bear a little bit. Said, you're very big, you're very strong. We want to just acknowledge him. And again, there's no place where you could go. There was no sidewalk, no buildings, no gas stations, nothing. So we were just forced to keep going. And fortunately, one of those big lorries, you know, one of those big transport trailers, was at the bottom of this mountainous valley, and it started to come up slowly, shifting gears, because it has to go on the ascend, you know? And in the mountain, you know, this sort of cavernous valley, everything, there's like an echo, there's a reverb, right? So we were all hearing, me and my partner could see the little truck, he looked like a little dinky toy way in the bottom, making his way up. The bear couldn't you couldn't understand where the sound was coming from. Like a growl, like that of an engine, and the clutches shifting and so on like that. He couldn't understand. He looked this way and that way, very bewildered. We, the victims, the prey, potential prey, were kind of feeling, okay, really, if the guy's coming. And so finally the bear figured it out. The road starts to shift, it starts to, shift to tremble a little bit, right? So he figured he'd look behind him, and he took off, and that was it. So the moral of the story is you gotta watch what you pray for.
Yes,
But
exactly.
I didn't have any regrets at all, because that day I saw a black bear, mama bear, and her little cub going up the tree. And so I was charmed, and somewhere or other, when you're on the road, you feel safe. You feel safe. It's like your amigo. Something is going to happen that will be good or bad. We're hoping more for goodness. Yes.
Where do you stay for the night when you walk?
Well, it depends. Oftentimes just in a tent, in a campsite. Sometimes people invite you in. Generous people are just interested in what you're doing. Sometimes you'll stay at a temple, or sometimes at a church. And I would leave that job up to my support guy. I was the one doing the walking and the cooking, and he'd do everything else. And there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be done. So what do you learn from these walks? Detachment. Vairagya is what we call it. Learning how to be detached from the world, because the elements are coming at you. The intense heat, or like here, it would be, if I was to walk in Florida, it would be in January. Right. And it would be in the nighttime, probably. Yeah. I remember being in Omaha, Nebraska. So humid, so we had to walk in the night. We just had to walk. So that's, to answer your question, yeah. Occasionally, like in America, there were enough Patel motels. Do you know what a Patel motel is? Okay.
They're all over the place.
The Patel is a surname. It's like Smith or Jones, And for people from Gujarat, from India, right? Patel, and they own and operate about 80% of the travelers' lodges, the motels and hotels. So this Patel would know that Patel, would know that Patel on the next town. So that's where we would stay. And in Canada, it was a little different. We mostly stayed in the tent, And then we'd learn also how to eat. Like we're on a vegetarian diet, mostly vegan, and we would learn some of the wild vegetables that are around, and we'd harvest them and put them in the khichdi or whatever, And it was so delightful. I mean, I really felt I was getting somewhere. I was learning. We were learning, and a little bit in a survival way, you can say. And, so that was, a big score for us, Apart from making a lot of friends. What else? You get to learn what's going on in all the communities. Especially by looking at the historical plaques. What group of immigrants came in, because, North America's full of immigrants before, the alligators were always here, but, or the bears, but, what happened, and what year, was there an influx, when did people take notice of a particular area? Well, I was just historically interested in that sort of thing, So, I think that if you really want to know the land, you have to walk it. You have to do it on your foot, on foot. That's the best way. And then you meet folks who can tell about their parents or grandparents and all this kind of stuff. And you go through emotions when you go. There were places in the Midwest, well, particularly near Nevada, where there was gold. Not anymore. Ghost towns, 50% ghost, let's say, vacant places. And it's your heart. When I walked through Pennsylvania, that what they call it, the Rust Belt or something like that, where there was incredible industry going on, but the steel industry, and it just went belly up, if you understand the term. So, there's something that happens when you're going on long walks. You become perceptive, you become very sensitive, And anything that has happened, you can remember it. It's very clear in your head. Because, you're taking in fresh air every day. When you get a chance, you go for a swim, and just go out. And it was beautiful experience. And, I recommend people to go for long walks, long treks, or, our indigenous people, they went for these vision quests. They go for fasting for some time. Anybody's got Irish blood in them, you follow St. Patrick or somebody like that, or if you're coming from like a Hindu background or a Buddhist background, Christian, Orthodox Christian background, your ancestors probably did a little bit of this. It's better than going to Orlando and to see Mickey Mouse and all of that. Just going on that like a real vacation was the way to go. Yeah, so I completed my first walk in Canada after 7.5 months. And then, because I was following the Trans-Canada Highway from West Coast to East Coast. Then you get, when you're in Northern Ontario, you must go down south where most of the people live, for an experience. So the U.S. was fantastic. I started on the 50th anniversary of when our guru arrived at Boston Harbor. And so that was 50 years later. We were almost on the dot, like on the day of. And, it took me 2.5 stretches to do this walk. And the first stretch was to Butler, Pennsylvania, from Boston to Butler, Pennsylvania, and then going back to New York, like a sort of a slice of a pie. And why? Because our guru did arrive in New York, and then he went to Butler, spent a month there, Butler, Pennsylvania, where they invented the American Jeep. And then the next stretch was from Butler to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then the next summer from Nebraska, from Lincoln to San Francisco. Yeah, so it's a long stretch, and it's a great adventure. I think some of the highlights were, the natural beauty that's all around, meeting the nice folks. And when I went through the Midwest, I thought, oh God, people there are heavy steer eaters, steaks and all that stuff. And I just had an attitude. But by the time I finished, I felt, these people are kind of God-centered, they're more simple, very more family-oriented. So I felt very comfortable going through that area. And San Francisco is the ending point. I guess 50 years from that point, anniversary was when our Prabhupada ended up here in San Francisco to start his mission. And the mission was to start the whole Bhakti Yoga tradition. Yoga means to connect with the divine, and Bhakti means to do it with love. And so I was kind of following his trail, you could say. Yeah. And so to this day, I can talk about my experiences, and I haven't really gone into major details here with you all, unless if you have a few days. But it was something very novel, and I know that after I finished my walk, or walks, I had a lot of people coming back to me, even my peers, my other swamis that I know, said, I'm walking every day because I got inspired by you. So, we feel good that you have done something to do, to help others make some level of improvement in their life. So, there's a few things that I thought were important that I'd like to share with you. When I was on these marathon walks, I never got sick. I never got a cold. I never went through a fever. Never. Well, it just doesn't happen. And even some of those hot countries that I described, although they're much smaller, you know, I think there's something to be said about being outdoors, walking, because we're designed for that. Remember the old song? Maybe you don't, because I'm too old now. These boots were made for walking. Yes,
Yeah.
and one of these days, these boots
Walk
can walk all over you. Doom, 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 doom. Yeah, so it's a little bit like that. The bodies were made to walk, and we don't do it enough. Most of it. Oh, and, or in a car, you know, as much as it's necessary. I feel good when I say the car, which I don't like, is as much as I don't like cars, you know, and but they're a necessary evil, you know, we need them, you know. And in one of the first chapters, one of my good friends who's absolute, and he lives in Florida, is Ambarish, Alfred Rush Ford. He's the great-grandson of Henry Ford, you know. And so Henry Ford, everybody knows, he started the whole assembly line, building cars and all that. And so I told him once, I met him in Alfred Rush Ford in Houston. I said, you know, Ambarish, I just want to say something. I don't like cars. I don't like what they've done to the planet and all this. And I felt, well, maybe I didn't talk to the right person to say this. So he said, don't worry, Swami. I don't like them either. You know, we do want to encourage more walking, less walking. I really believe that if people walk more, there's going to be less tension, less confrontation, less argumentation. Because when you go out there walking in the outdoors, and if you could do a forest run, even better. Walk through a forest. Just keep your eyes on the alligators. You know, there's a real purging sensation. We just do this 1 hour of walking every day. And yeah, we might not go about it very swiftly, but at least go out there and there's so much to be learned. Just out there. You get to meet people, you get to see their skin color, their hair blowing in the wind. There's something very entertaining about it, something very, let's say, organic about walking. Yeah. So I highly recommend, and I encourage people to go for introspective walking so that you can, let's say, be introspective. You know? Just go a little bit more inside of you, and that's what naturally happens. And when I go, I also walk with my mala, my beads, and on each bead we chant the mantra that we just did a few minutes ago. And that combination is great. Oh, thank you so much. Speaking of mala, this is part of the custom. I'm not in Hawaii, but yeah, thanks so much.
Aloha.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Mahalo.
Oh, yes. By the way, I did walk Hawaii and went through the Honolulu. I started up Pearl Harbor. That's where I started out. And I went to the northern shore. Yeah, it was a nice walk. Nice walk. Lots of fun.
Volcano.
Huh?
Volcano near the zoo on the other side.
Oh, yes. Well, I saw the famous volcano on the main island. That's the big
There's
big
a lot
part.
of views there.
Well, where I walk, not so. No. It depends which island we're on. Yeah, so 14 states in the United States. That was good enough. So I have my eyes on some other countries, especially where they speak English. I have thought about walking to Russia. I've thought about it. It would take a whole year. And can't do it. Actually, I wore down my knees, and I got my knees replaced. I had to. The cartilage was worn down so much. I had to do that. It was a good decision because I started to limp, you know. and after some time, and then once I got this surgery done, it's just like as good as new. So if anybody's thinking about, you got a problem with your knees, and it's persisting, you might consider visits.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Number one, you said you were threatened, felt threatened a little by the bears. Did you ever get threatened a little by a human being?
Yes, human beings are the most dangerous
Yes.
creatures out there. But I would say that on each walk that I did, whether it was the US or Canada, you can count on your hands how many times people were obnoxious.
Just obnoxious.
Just obnoxious with their words or saying something obscene or something like that. Or maybe you tell that they get the sort of redneck dynamic, they have some, attitude problems, get out of town. And if I met any of them later, were you the one who told me to get out of town? I wasn't thinking about staying here, it's not worth saying.
My second comment is, I don't know anything about Holland, but I flew KLM once, and they were the nicest crews I have ever experienced on an airplane.
Well, I'll just say, the Dutch got it kind of together. They're very efficient, they're very fast, they're into detail. There's good working ethics. What I found a little uncomfortable of the Netherlands is that there's a strip for traveling for the cyclists. There's a strip for the walkers. There's a stretch also for the vehicles, and in some places for horses. So you kind of have to watch it a little bit where you're walking. You can't step over the line because people on bicycles, they rule there. So it's a tiny place. It's very efficient. They really take care of every square. Just kind of looked after. It's not wild and wonderful, but it's mild and wonderful. But I have to be honest with you. After living in North America for all my life practically, and mostly in Canada, I really miss the bears, the skunks, the raccoons. And they have, that's an interesting place. So many oak trees, and the nuts come down, right? The acorns come down. And like the forest was covered with them. There's not one squirrel to go after them. No squirrels. Yeah, no squirrels.
Where are there no squirrels?
In the Netherlands.
Oh, in the Netherlands. Because
It's not
they're
big
full
one.
of squirrels.
No, I mentioned this.
Beautiful black squirrels.
Yeah, that's right, that's the yeah. So, every place is different. Every place has its own maya, form of illusion. And that's okay. Somehow you try to transcend it. And you make friends along the way. I think the best thing is that when media comes, like it only took 8 days to walk the Netherlands, but 11 days, it was 11 major newspapers that took interest in the story and wrote about it. So they're reaching out to thousands of people every day. So, and to get some publicity, I didn't spend one penny. Mind you, I had a brilliant crew. There's 3 of them. One guy is from Delhi, he's married to a Romanian girl. And their friend is from Bengal. They chopped out the route for me, and they did an excellent job. Reached out to even my relatives so that they could come and join me on the walk. I met some relatives who I never knew I had, as I pointed out, and they told me about their life story, and many of them were outstanding, very successful people, growers. Greenhouse people. Yeah, so it was nice to see that. It was heartwarming. My mom and dad were not around to hear that I went to Holland, but I'm sure somewhere out there they got to find out. Good. So, anyways, thank you. for the questions. If you have any others.
Yes, how did you deal with insects when you
Very good question. Yeah, you have to deal with them.
What
That's
is
how you deal,
Спросила.
how you deal with the insects.
Комары?
Комары?
Mosquitoes.
Он сказал, там нету комаров.
You have to just deal with them.
So
Yeah, well, you know, there's certain times of the year when they really come out in full force. Like up in Canada, we have mosquitoes, we have black flies. And the black flies come out at the end of May, early June. They're nasty. But they, not in the night, it's in the sunlight. So you've got the mosquitoes are going to get at you at dusk and dawn, like in a voracious way. And then when they're finished, then the black flies take over. And then after that, the sun itself takes over and beats on you and drains you. So I just learned that, kind of like in dealing with the bears, don't get startled. Don't run. Don't show that kind of fear. And so with the mosquitoes, it's the same thing. You keep moving, you keep walking, and one lands, and you just go like this. And you say a mantra, Hare Kṛṣṇa. and you just keep at it like that, you know, for a while. It's just, I guess it's one of the things that humbles you along the way, that you can't avoid it. You could probably say, I'll make my own rules on this marathon. I'll just forget about this stretch of the walk. I'll just come back in mid-August when things are a little bit chilled out. But no, you just got to keep at it, you know, and live with it. Good question, because it's practical, right?
You mentioned just right now and earlier that every walk is like spiritual journey for you. So you do a lot of introspection and you meet people and you share knowledge of God with them. So I just would want to hear more about that. Do you count how many people actually, you know, came to Krishna consciousness or became spiritual believers? You know, do you keep in touch with them? You know, because it seems like you would know people all over the world right now.
Yes, well, it's not exactly like that. People, when they kind of meet up with you, they think this is very unique, it's very novel to meet a monk that's going across the country. When does that happen? It's not, it's very rare.
It's happening now.
Yeah, I heard about the Buddhist. Yeah. So, I would try to keep contact. I would always leave a mantra card. I'd leave my message, you know, my email address and everything, how to reach me. So people did, you know, connect that way. I think that's the common way now. Just leave them your website or something. You know. And so that's the way you do it. On occasion, like I remember several guys, and that was in Canada, in Saskatchewan, they're working on the railroad, and I was walking along, right next to the railroad. You know how it works, you know. Small, you know, country, 2-lane highway in the country, once in a while a tractor comes by. And so there were guys, they were working on the railroad, and I was connecting with them. I said, hey, you know, they were interested in me because to find a monk in the prairies is so rare. And we made friends, and I said, well, do you ever sing the song, I'm working on the railroad? Yeah, we know that's it. So several weeks later, the guy sends me an email, hey, I was working on the railroad. So then there's an opportunity to say something that might be to do with the spirit. I was in Ohio, I think it was Youngstown, and it was raining, and one guy said, hey, come on in, get out of the rain, come on in. I think he was a used car sales guy. And he looked like the sun, he had this, he was round-faced, he was glowing like the sun, you know. And do you remember Burl Ives? He's an old actor, he looked like a cross between the sun and Burl Ives. That's how he looked. So we made friends, and he said, I read about you in the paper. And this paper, this was Saturday morning. Friday evening, the reporter came around, and it's hard to get somebody on Friday afternoon to do your story. Friday afternoon? everyone leaves the office early, to have fun for the weekend. But this guy did a really nut job. He was African American. He had this slick, like three-piece suit on, and he showed no emotions whatsoever, when he interviewed me. And he just went like question after question. I gave him a book, and then I didn't know what he was feeling, what he was thinking. I thought he was just doing his job. And he gets just like with a straight face. I think it's great what you're doing. Can I give you a hug? It was kind of like that, So then he wrote a great article, because I wasn't sure that it would come up the very next day. And it was one of those cases he spelled out clearly, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I think he was one of the people who wrote the whole mantra out, and the article was so positive. So, going back to the car sales guy, he was so kind and he said, listen, I know you're in trouble. I'll give you the shirt on my back just to dry off. He was like that kind of character, like all giving. And then, so that was the month of, I think it was probably October. And then I'm in India, early March, and I get a call. Hello? Who's this? They say, is this the walking monk? I said, yes, it's the walking monk. So, yeah, well, it's me. And I could recognize his voice right away. It's me. The guy connected to Wawa, we had some talk. And it was so nice to get that kind of feedback as a follow-up from people. And then, I'm going through the course of my travels. This is not when I'm not walking. And someone from our group, excuse me, are you the walking monk? Yeah, because a friend of mine met about you in some obscure place. So it just leaves an impression. And it's a